Hello and welcome to The Secret Mind. So today I'm going to wing something. It's Hypno Monday and we've been talking about sleep, and I just want to move it on a little bit. We've done a relaxation hypnosis session, which I maybe didn't call hypnosis right at the beginning. Don't want to scare anybody off. And we've done something about sleep information tied into hypnosis. Last week we did something else, didn't we? Anyway, this week I want to move that on a little bit. Now, apologise for this. I'm growing it for a part, but it may come off tomorrow. And my sound has been suboptimum. I'm struggling with it really. So I'm looking at a pillow right now to try and absorb something this rogue sound is bouncing off. But it's not ideal. So I'm going to be winging this, and what we're going to do is we're going to just amp it up a little bit. I thought, okay, I need to do something today. What are we going to talk about? And I thought, well, I'll just have a quick look at what other people are talking about. And I put sleep and hypnosis into YouTube. I got about 2 videos in and I couldn't really bear it anymore. There was just people droning on endlessly. There was one lady, it looked very pretty. And I think that was maybe the point. Just reading out standard scripts, looked to watch millions of views. So she must be doing something right. Looked at what the plan was, looked at what she'd done recently, and nothing had been done for 3 years, and she was now selling some other sort of business type product. So I think the thing about hypnosis is you can read scripts and you can put them out there and claim that you're doing something, and enough people seem to enjoy it. Also, a lot of people didn't engage with it, and that was advertised as the best hypnosis video for sleep, but it was interminably dull. One person in the comments that I read claimed it made them worse or made them really annoyed, and I get that. You might be annoyed listening to my voice. You have to pick your poison. But there wasn't a lot of content, so I put on Paul McKenna. I didn't listen to more than a minute of it, but even he was falling asleep. And there will have been some hypnotic patterns in Paul McKenna's work because, he's a good hypnotist. But this was more about just droning people off to sleep. I don't think that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make something that allows you to reprogram your patterns, not just bore you into sleep on one occasion. I'll buy that if I made a tape that would bore you into sleep on one occasion and you listen to it 365 days of the year, and I got my YouTube views up, and I'd be delighted, and you would be dependent. Isn't that a dependency? I'm not trying to build dependency. I want to build new pathways. That means you don't watch me, that you don't need anybody to read you a bedtime story. That said, I'm going to read you a bedtime story. Now, that's not quite true, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and move this on. So we've done certain patterns in the previous videos, and now I want to move on to another thing, which is a dream architecture process. Walking you through a dream in a guided way. Except the dream will be more of a story, and the story will be improvised. And the story will be based on a structure you may already know, and that is of the children's popular cartoon character, Mr. Benn. So this is going to be an original thing that I've never tried before. We'll see how it works. I may stutter through it a little bit. For those of you who don't know Mr. Benn, this is Mr. Benn. And this is a coin, 50p coin. I got into buying 50p coins in lockdown, bought 3 or 4 of them because they're just so lovely and collectible. And it happened to be the 50th anniversary of Mr. Benn's creation. That was our queen on the back. And so it was issued in 2021. And the chap who narrated the TV episodes, which was shown endlessly to British people, and if you haven't seen them, you should catch up with them. They're all wonderful. Died only last year, David McKee, after all this time. And he didn't make very much money off Mr. Benn, but there were 14 episodes made, each lasting 15 minutes. Let me read these characters. The characters that Mr. Benn became, and this is the format that we're gonna play with. Mr. Benn becomes a character. You'll be familiar with this idea maybe of when people insist there's such thing as confidence, which I'm not entirely convinced about. My submission is that it's a lack of anxiety, and the confidence doesn't really exist. Overconfidence certainly exists, but that's another story. So Mr. Benn becomes a character, and he becomes a character by going into a fancy dress shop. Essentially, that is the premise of the story. Everything in the cartoons is perfect. The brilliant narration by Ray Brooks, British actor, still alive, just perfectly selected. The wonderful theme tunes that I could sing it to you. I'm not sure if YouTube's algorithm will approve. If I sing it slightly out of tune, maybe the algorithm won't pick it up. Okay, it's one of those two notes. Is all perfect, and the animation was unique to David McKee. The characters that he became, only making 14 episodes, were the Red Knight, famously, who can forget that one? The Hunter, yeah. The Clown, I know what you're saying. Is it the Balloonist next? It is. The Wizard, yeah. Spaceman, Cook, became a caveman, a zookeeper, a diver or frogman, cowboy, Aladdin, pirate, and some years later they made, something like 20 years later, they made an additional episode, and he was a gladiator. 14 episodes. We are going to make episode 15. So this is the Mr. Benn model. This is the episode 15 model, and we're going to create it together, partly with David McKee's format and characters to some extent, partly with whatever story we make up along the way, or I make up, and the rest of it will be your imagination, if you please. So I was just looking at the Mr. Benn page, and let me just give you a little I've got a picture. Have I got a picture I can show you here? Will this work? There we go. Mr. Benn. There he is, in some of his guises. The Red Knight there, yep, the Frogman, the Caveman, the Diver. Was Diver, oh, that's the Frogman. Oh, was he in space? Was this a spaceman as well, was he? Yeah, spaceman. And that can happen. When you get to a certain age, you can confuse your spacemen with your frogmen. So take care out there, kids. It's a dangerous world. So that said, there are also other episodes. This isn't just a video on Mr. It might be. We should do that. There were other episodes made, and one of the episodes was in a book that was never made into a TV program. In my view, it still should be, but unfortunately we've lost David McKee. We've still got Ray Brooks to narrate it. I was going to buy it, but somebody's narrated it on YouTube, and they've put up the text, which I might just be able to read the start of it for you if he's got his video in focus. So let's try this again, and it'll give you the idea of the story and some of the pictures. So let's just. It looks as though it says signed copy by David McKee there. And of course this is called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Benn, and surprise, surprise, he's going to become a prisoner. This is his adventure today. David McKee, look at that, he signed that page. So I think I can just about read this. Mr. Benn woke up one morning and looked around him. Same four walls, same old wallpaper, same old view from the window, he said to himself. It's no good having that shut-in feeling. It's time I took myself for a nice long walk. Without waiting for breakfast, Mr. Benn put on his bowler, he always wears a bowler hat, and the suit, and set out for the little side streets where interesting things were always happening. Down one of these streets he passed the tiny old shop where he had once rented an unusual red suit of armour, who can forget that, for a fancy dress ball. As he passed by, the strange little shopkeeper, with the moustache and the odd hat, waved to him. It's a fez. Why not, thought Mr. Benn. I shall step inside for just a moment. A suit and hat of black and grey stripes attracted his attention. On the chest of the suit were written the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. As he stood there wondering what the numbers could mean, the shopkeeper's voice behind him said, "Why don't you see if the costume fits, sir?" "Thank you. I think I shall," said Mr. Benn, and he took the suit of the clothes to the door marked fitting room. And, as every youngster knows, that's where his adventures always begin. So there are good messages in this. I have somewhere, I'm pretty sure, the little lessons from Mr. Benn. I just couldn't put my hands on it before this video because my 400 square foot studio here is just too crammed with stuff. And but it's a very good metaphor. The reason this wasn't ever made into a cartoon for kids was that they thought the content was too adult, given that it becomes a prisoner. And what he does, he goes into the prison, everybody's upset, and he brightens the place up. And one of the things that happens in that story, because I've just listened to it while I went out for a walk, is that some of the guys are given jobs, some are breaking up rocks. It has nothing about the people whose jobs are to watch Sky Television all day long, nothing about that. Breaking up rocks, sewing mailbags, not sure that goes on anymore, maybe Pilates, and he what was I saying? He's doing his jobs. Somebody's sewing. Oh yes, somebody's mixing paint, right? And one of the things they do is they mix all the bright colours together, and they make dull colours. I thought this is written by an NLP expert. This is exactly the way you could use that just as an exercise in itself, to take a dull colour and filter out all the beautiful bright colours, separate them in your mind, and you can't feel the same way about that same paint again. So the messages in this are using neurolinguistic things even before they were defined and publicised and marketed as such. So it's beautifully done. But he's also a guy who was shut in. He was lonely inside, and he went for a walk, and then he finds this wonderful, colourful shop with the mysterious shopkeeper. And through the door of the fitting room, once he's picked a costume to try on, is his adventure, because, as everybody knows, there's a second door out of that fitting room that isn't the one he came in at, and that door leads to adventure. So you are Mr. Benn. When you change your clothes, you can shed that persona that you have, any weight that you're carrying around, and you can enter a new adventure, a safe adventure, in a fancy dress shop, if you like, or whatever version of it you want to do. And this is the way you can communicate with different parts of your brain to make changes. It may seem childish. It isn't childish particularly, it's just fun. It's just the way stories work. And we are the stories that we tell ourselves, of course. So the idea is to tell yourself the best story you can. And then your physiology is obliged to catch up. And then you've got permanent solutions. So it isn't just a question of stories that are going to bore you into sleep and drone on at you, but also it is about firing up your imagination to do that. So my proposition is that we, yes, mix a little bit of relaxation in to get you into the mood, or I'm not going to have music running through it like Paul McKenna, but we could do that. But as I say, my production values are what they are. And what would happen if Mr. Benn, the other thing he does, he always goes, and the people he bumps into, they have a problem. And instantly he finds himself obliged to help them with it, and comes up with something that will solve it for them. And sometimes along the way, he finds a little nothing, a little memento. It's often a matchstick or a little bit of nothing. And he takes that with him to help him remember. In his own words, it will help me remember. And that is an anchor, isn't it? That's what you do with anchors. We haven't covered anchors very much, but they're little feelings, sensations, words even. There's, if you've ever seen the film, is it the film Inception? They have totems, they call them, don't they? Are they the same thing, where they map to certain levels of consciousness? It's a long time since I've seen the movie, but a simply definable thing that can locate you within your own consciousness. So a beacon. How about that? A beacon that will send you there. In fact, I prefer that word to anchor. I've always had a bit of difficulty with anchors. You know, they're always saying, oh, people always say, oh, press the forefinger of press your thumb and middle finger together. Note that, and when you do that feeling, that will anchor off this sensation. And you'll be asked that sensation. Say, what sensation would it be? Well, let's make it laughter. So I'll tell you a brilliant joke. You'll laugh, ha ha ha. Anchor that, bang. And that is rudimentary, apparently. But I think it's more like lighting a beacon that you can find again. I don't know how many people feel anchored all the time. So, but beacons are easy to, they show journey, don't they? So I much prefer that. I might start using that. So we've invented two things today, the beacon and the Mr. Benn dream architecture, the Mr. Benn episode 15, the new episode that we're about to write together. So though that's the process behind it. The story, the dream architecture, I'm going to walk you through as a guided hypnotic process, a story we invent, and a process, an anchor or a beacon that can be refound so you can rewalk that journey, a solution. In this story, you will solve somebody's problem. That's already a nice thing to do, but in return, it will solve your problem. And the problem we were going to approach Mr. Benn with, or challenge him with, is the problem of entering out of that fitting room into a world that doesn't have good sleep. We're going to solve that problem. We're going to bring the solution back with us. We're going to look back on the place we visited, thank it for the experience, and then we're going to walk out of the fitting room, say goodbye to the shopkeeper, take our souvenir home with us, and go home and have a perfect night's sleep. That's what we're going to do next time. See you then.